afternoon, everyone. My name is Mia Sims Washington, Director of Digital Programming and Events for Walker's Legacy, and welcome to our Ask a Boss series. Named in honor of Madam C.J. Walker, Walker's Legacy was created with a mission to cultivate an ecosystem of access designed to inspire, equip, and engage a global network of professional and entrepreneurial women of color. You can learn more about Walker's Legacy by joining us online at www.walkerslegacy.com. It's my pleasure to introduce Natalie Madera Cofield. Natalie is the founder and CEO of Walker's Legacy, an organization she created to inspire, equip, and empower professional and enterprising women. Natalie began her career working 3 jobs in high school and started her first company at 26, growing to become a 3-time CEO by the age of 30. A millennial that found inspiration at the nexus of business, community, and politics, Natalie has carved a niche for herself as a serial entrepreneur, advocate, and speaker on all things startup and diversity. Please welcome Natalie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction, Mia. I am super excited to be here with you all today to interview, speak with, chat with, and connect with today's featured speaker, Dia Sims. Dia Sims is founder of Harris & Sims Hands, board vice chairman for St. Liberty Whiskey, and former CEO of the BRN Group. Dia spent many years working along Sean Diddy Combs at Combs Enterprises, where she began as an executive assistant and left the empire as president. Her tenure included numerous roles in which she oversaw business and creative activities for the portfolio of brands, which consisted of Cîroc Vodka, Blue Fame Agency, AQUAhydrate, Bad Boy Entertainment, Sean John, Revolt TV, and Capital Prep Harlem Schools. She is now revolutionizing the cannabis industry. Please welcome Dia Sims.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here with you today.
Absolutely. So Dia, first off, how are you doing in the coronavirus moment? How is the family? How is work? How are you doing personally, emotionally, and all of that?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking that. We're safe and well, so we are grateful, very busy. I think, to be honest, I am less concerned about COVID than I am concerned about the level of divisiveness that is climbing in the country right now. That is actually the thing that does keep me up at night. I think we'll get through. I think the virus piece of it, I'm not worried about that, but the healing this country requires is a real crazy 911 right now.
Yeah, it is. On top of so many other things, right? So we have the circumstance of the economics, the circumstance of racial tension, the political races, and then on top of that, we've got coronavirus. So, Dia, let's get started. First, I shared a bit of your biography, and I think for those who are joining us to hear that someone has gone from executive assistant to become the president of the organization, obviously, that manages a portfolio of some of the most globally renowned entertainment brands in the world. Like, how do you go through that journey? Walk us through how that experience transpired for you from a career perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did not have like a linear path forward. Before working for Combs Enterprises, I was in ad sales and radio. And radio sales is like super hustle. It's like selling crack. Like the money you make is the money you bring in the building. So you get a salary, but you have to cover your own salary essentially. I inherited all the music labels as a category in New York. And Bad Boy Records at the time refused, anybody listening from New York may remember this, refused to advertise on this station in New York called Power 105 because they were so loyal to the legendary hip hop station Hot 97. So in the beginning, I was able to convince the marketing executives and kind of broke Bad Boy Records as a client for a first-time advertiser, and then start to work with them quite a bit more on different projects. And when Pop was looking for a chief of staff, actually, one of the executives reached out to me and said, would you be interested in coming over to interview for this job? And I honestly think she literally was basically like, you send emails at 3 a.m., he sends emails at 3 a.m., I think you'll get along. So I'm always down. This is one thing I will say. I will always take the interview, right? You never know what relationship you're going to make. I'll take the interview. It might not be for me. Get the offer and be like, I can't do it, but I got somebody else. Like whatever, it helps to build relationships. Interview with Puff, shortest interview I'd ever had. It was like 6 minutes, but he asked great questions, was pointed, and they called me and said, would you be willing to come over? But you have not really managed large teams. So he would like you to start as an executive assistant instead of taking the chief of staff role. And I literally was like, you can't call me the janitor. This is the salary I need to be at. Like I'm not about titles because I feel like the real reason why I was interested in taking the role was at my heart, I'm just a super geek. And I felt like, you know what, this is someone who I can learn from, right? This is somebody that I can go and learn about being entrepreneurial, learn how to build things from scratch, and learn how to shift culture. Frankly, that was my real priority. So I went over and started as executive assistant. And, I was really fortunate. I think we had a good work vibe in terms of the fact that Pop is an enormous visionary, a real dreamer. And literally I would be like the dream factory. So if he's like, I want to change the sky purple, I want to have magical unicorns doing doing two-step dance. I want to figure out, I'm going to be the one to be like, yes, we can do that. I found out this unicorn population that's in Argentina. We're going to be able to sell uniforms. We're going to do shoes. We're going to do a kids line for the unicorn, and figure out how you make it operational, profitable, scalable, and also do some real good in the world at the same time. So I think we were a good match in terms of vision and execution. And I was fortunate to continue to be promoted within the first 3 months and on up until being president, the first president actually, in the history of Combs Enterprises.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, for those it's funny because I was talking about making the band recently and I was talking to someone younger. They're like, Michelle, Junior's Cheesecake, where is that? I was like, oh my God. But for anyone who watched Making the Band, we know how extraneous it must be to work for the man, the icon, Sean Puffy Combs. So for you to go on to become the first president of his enterprise really shows, one, your work ethic, and two, what it takes in terms of trust and how trust gained over time, maintained over time, and how so much of the world opens up to you when people trust you with their baby, which is their business and their enterprises. And so, yeah, that's something I think that really goes to your character and your leadership. So before I move on to kind of, your new career path, which I'm very excited to talk about and want to hear more insights about your visions and your belief in the cannabis industry and how we need to be engaged in it from the investor perspective, the business owner perspective, and other perspectives. I want to ask you a couple questions about what maybe 3 of the top lessons that you learned during your time working with Sean Puffy Combs might have been.
So I think the first one would be around being audacious. I think particularly, I'm so inspired now. I'm 40, just turned 45, but I'm inspired when I see what young women and young men are now very, unapologetic about what their worth is. And it's not much has changed practically, but the spirit is starting to change, right? When we were coming up, if you were buying Black media, it was at a discount. If you were getting any Black businesses were getting the very small leftover crumbs, really in every industry. And from day one, Puff was very focused on whatever dollars I generate, whatever price I set is going to be the expectation for everybody who comes behind me. So we can't just crack open the door a little bit, right? We have to charge for what we're actually worth because we're setting the price, we're setting the market. As an example with Cîroc Vodka, we came in and set the appropriate expectation so that the next 100 artists that came behind us had a level of belief and faith and could walk in and name their number as they should. We know how to activate an audience that changes culture. Besides what we actually sell one-to-one, it reverberates globally. So you have to charge for that. There's an X factor, there's a multiple. And I think we all have to get real comfortable with being audacious about what we're worth. Women in general, Black women especially, that wherever you work, you have to contribute 3X because that's the way many of us are raised in order to be taken seriously. You need to charge for that, right? And I think that is something that I will always take with me. I think the second piece is around the importance of the integrity of the product. I used to be a running joke that like I could make your birthday a national holiday, right? Like we had such an ability to affect culture and go out and say, all right, tonight if I want to, I can affect 90 million people on Instagram with a message. Buy this, click here, da da da. You can't do that twice. Like I could throw you a dope birthday party, but if you get there and the spirits are whack and the DJ is off and the food is terrible and it's too hot, you're not coming back next year. And he had such integrity on not taking advantage of his ability to turn on culture and say, but when they get there, when they come to my party, when they taste the Cîroc Vodka, when they try in the Sean John soup, they should be delighted with the experiences. I have to stand behind the integrity of the product that I advocate for. And I will never lose that important nugget. I think the last point would be around, and I think to his credit on this last point, Puff was very intentional about his own evolution and what it meant to be a manager, what it meant to be a leader, and what it meant to inspire the total human being, right? So I'll give you a first-hand example where I was at work. It was very 24-hour, can't stop, won't stop. That's not a game. So I get a call from my mom, and I'm a real daddy's girl. My dad was like ex-military police, black belt, very strong. And so, your father is on the way to the hospital. He has collapsed and he can't walk. So I just like put my things down. I tell like one person and walk out the office. I'm at the hospital, devastated. And I don't tell Puff. I just say I have a family thing. I just keep it privately. But somebody tells him. Next thing I know, he has called the hospital, had my father moved to the best hospital in Manhattan, called the doctors personally and said, this is my godfather, treat him accordingly. And the truth is, there's not enough money that will ever replace that kind of loyalty and trust, right? So like those kind of things and understanding that, of course, we all go to work to make money, but when you care actually about the whole human being, you get so much more out of the relationship. It's so much more valuable. I mean, I think that is the third and frankly, probably the most important lesson.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So Dia, let's talk about, your transition to the cannabis industry. Obviously, there are very few minorities in this space and certainly very few women and women of color in this space. Number one, what kind of first preempted this interest? How did you go from working with Sean Combs to now kind of your transition into the cannabis space?
Yeah, so I am involved. So to be clear, I'm still working both in spirits and cannabis. I actually have an exciting announcement next month. So hopefully maybe in 2020 I'll be back.
Good to know. Heard it here first.
When I initially left Combs Enterprise, the thing that was interesting to me was the cannabis industry people were making just ridiculous amounts of cash. And who wasn't making money were young people, were women, were minorities, and which was just a travesty to me. I grew up with the idea that if you want to change something, the easiest way is to change it from the inside, right? It's not as easy to change it from the outside. So I said, look, I want to become a part of this industry to see how I can bring in more people who look like me, who have been disproportionately penalized as a result of laws around this industry. And now people are benefiting from it. And I feel like my culture is not benefiting from it. And you still have today, in one state, somebody making $50 million off of what somebody's still in jail in the next state for, which is ludicrous. So that was really my inspiration initially. I'm still involved in it. I now have a broker in Florida that works in distribution, specifically for CBD brands, and then also just branding and marketing, which is a huge opportunity in this space because you have a lot of great products, but not the sophistication of like CPG brands. So if you have expertise in branding, the cannabis industry needs you. If you have agricultural, know-how, cannabis industry needs you. And then we know for a fact that when you have diverse boards and diverse leadership, companies make more money. I mean, some studies show as much as 3 times. So if you are any level of diversity, cannabis industry needs you. I actually recommend a company called Bangst, Bangst. They're a recruiter in the space. Walker's Legacy has enormous relationships. I think, make this type of platform is exactly for that. But I want to see more of us represented there.
Yeah,